Mr. Forbes, thank you so much for delivering the keynote address for NACVA's Silver Anniversary Conference here on Coronado Island. It's been an honor to have you participate in this great event for our association. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, especially for the 25th. And silver, I guess golden is 50, right?
Yes.
So maybe we can start planning for that.
Let's do it. We'd love to have you back. You had a great audience today. They were very warm and receptive to your messages on the economy, and particularly three key areas that you felt were important to reviving America. And let's talk a little bit about those things. As the purpose of this discussion with you, we have many members who were not able to join us at the conference. And so this will give them an opportunity to hear a little bit about some of the topics you discussed and some of your thoughts on how we could revive America.
Well, we need revival. The economy is stuck in second gear. We're like a baseball player hitting 220. We can do much better. And the book, Reviving America, focuses on three big reforms, the big three. Clearly, we have to do other things, but we need to deal with health care, we need to deal with the tax code and the Federal Reserve and the stability of the dollar. And health care obviously is important because it's so personal. It's also the largest part of the U.S. economy. Sure. And the challenge with the health care is the patient is not in charge. Consumers are in charge of other parts of the economy, but not in health care. And I like to cite the example: if you go and ask what treatment's going to cost, they treat you as if you don't have insurance or you're crazy. Why would you want to know the price? Just be passive. Let us do what needs to be done. We'll send you a bill, and maybe in a year you'll know how much you actually owe and what's covered by insurance. And so the system's out of control. And so I propose various reforms, such as having nationwide shopping for health insurance, so hundreds of companies compete for your business. Transparency, so you know what prices are for treatments, whether it's MRIs or anything else. And the proof of having the need for patient control is where the patient really lies in the healthcare chain. It's all third-party payer. So government is the customer, insurance company is the customer, and obviously employers are the customer. But the patient, I like to point out, no motel would put you in a room with another guest with a curtain in between, and the other guest being sick. So there's no reason for that.
That was a very good point that you made. You also talked about how in so many industries globally, not just in America, for example, the iPhone that you gave, and that how quickly that awesome idea was born and marketed and manufactured and distributed and sold, and now the price points are coming so that they're much more affordable, and that trend will continue, but it's not quite the same in healthcare. Can you talk a bit about your thoughts on that?
Well, when you don't have consumerism in healthcare, where it's all top down, nothing gets changed unless somebody forces them. So that's why electronic records, which have been around for 20 years, are just making an appearance in healthcare in a very inefficient way at that, because you don't have consumerism. So in terms of getting, again, the patient in control, you got to have those kinds of basic reforms like transparency, and that's the way you move the thing forward. But in terms of the patient should be supreme. So when the patient's unhappy, it's the hospital the one that takes the brunt, and not the patient feeling he or she is lost in a maze. There's
another point within the topic of healthcare that you discussed that I found very, very informative, and we appreciate you sharing that, particularly our members who are women, and the issue of the mammograms.
This gets to the point in marketplaces, normal marketplaces, information, great new products are quickly, widely practiced. And in healthcare, it doesn't happen. It takes years and years and years. And a good example is MBI, molecular breast imaging. Now, mammograms are great, but for women, and 45% of women have dense tissue. And so the mammogram doesn't work as well. I saw pictures of somebody from Mayo Clinic at a conference. You look at the dense tissue and you look at bad tissue for cancer, you can't tell the difference with dense tissue. So MBI, molecular breast imaging, They put a solution in, and the solution goes, gloms right on in the breast of areas that might be a problem. So you get a very, very high rate, 90% rate of detecting with dense tissue breast cancer. And so literally, you'd think this would be instant.
Right.
Huge for 40% of the female population. But it's very slow. Right. I asked the audience how many women were aware of it. Not many. Yeah. And so we got to get the word out. But that shouldn't have to be a campaign. That should be instant. Everyone knows about it. Everyone goes out there, word of mouth, insist on it. And even though initially the test costs $400 more than the mammogram, you spend $400 if it's going to save your life, because the cure is going to be many times that. Right. And in a normal market, the cost of the procedure would be going down, as you do with any other product. And but it doesn't happen. And so these are not just about costs, which are critical. It's life and death.
Sure. Yeah. Particularly for families and women who this is a big issue for their health.
Well, who knows? We're still learning a lot about cancer, but if you have a history of it in a family, or you know friends, you want to be sure that you're doing all you can to get these things. Especially in cancer, early detection vastly improves the odds that you're going to survive. You're going to win. But why again a test that would benefit so many millions of people is like a snail's pace is crazy.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. So the other area that you spoke about, well, there's another story that I like that you told, and that was about the water crisis in California. That you feel it's been very politicized, where akin to Israel, how in one of the driest countries on the planet, they have technology and resources where water is not such a crisis like it is here in California. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, being in the desert, Israel being in the desert, especially with rainfall declining rather than increasing, they've been very conscious for decades, and because of that, they've come up with some very innovative ways. It falls under the rubric of conservation. When we think of conservation, we think of, we have to use less, we have to put bricks in the toilet and all that kind of thing. But no, it's in terms of agriculture. Obviously, it's a big agricultural nation. So they've made huge developments in drip technology. So you use a fraction of the water we use here to get the output. They have shower heads, use 1/3 of the water we use here. You'd be hard put to feel the real difference with it. Right. And the key thing is desalination plants. California finally is getting one, has one, that took 10 years longer than it would in Israel, cost 2 or 3 times as much and half the efficiency of a typical plant in Israel, where they take water, especially used in agriculture, and recycle it. So the most basic thing is water. Sure. And in the desert especially, they've demonstrated that with human ingenuity, if it's allowed to flourish, if it's allowed to apply the brain power and finding out what works, we all come out ahead. And so California's crisis is self-inflicted. They've made every mistake possible, wasting water, not building reservoirs, not blocking desalination plants, which can solve this thing. Again,
right.
Where are we? Why are we doing this to ourselves?
It also goes to your point with the free market too. If there is that technology and entrepreneurism to build out those resources to help with the crisis, it helps the economy and the bottom line. It creates jobs, and also obviously it's smart planning for the use of resources.
It improves our quality of life. I mean, again, the nice thing about free markets is a lot of people are going to be trying to do things, and most aren't going to work. But when it works, we benefit.
Right.
That's the key.
Right. Yeah.
I don't care if the guy becomes a billionaire. If it benefits my life, hey.
Sure. Yeah, please do it.
I'm happy. Yes.
Which brings us to the next area. Well, there were so many wonderful things you talked about within just that one topic of healthcare. And we have just a little bit of time with you, but the next area you felt is critical for us to address is tax reform.
Yes.
And how complicated. I was shocked when you gave the analogy of how many words are in the Bible, how many words are in, what were the other sources you referenced?
The Constitution, Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, but the tax code, 6 million words, 10 million words.
The code itself is about 1 million, but as any lawyer can tell you, that's just the beginning. You've got all these interpretations and rulings and things that, so it adds up when you read these things, it's at least 10 million. And nobody really understands it. And that's why I cite this thing of Money Magazine years ago, taking a hypothetical family, giving the numbers to 46 of the best tax preparers in the country, and you got 46 different results. This from people who make their living at the thing. And so, and it's not just efficiency, it's not just the corruption brings out the worst in people. April's a horror month, you got all the record, blah, 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 blah. It's also moral. If you take the tens of billions of hours, IRS estimates 6 billion hours a year we spend filling out forms, $200 billion experts believe we spend complying with this thing. Everyone, even if you don't owe any taxes, you've got to make sure you got to do a return, you got to pay an accountant, buy the software. And so you add that up, say over 20 years, think of all the tens of billions of hours, trillions of dollars, the brain power and time we waste on this thing if it's been used for productive purposes, new cures, better medicines, better medical devices, new products, a whole orchard of new iPhones and iPad equivalents that we didn't even know existed and can't live without. All that's lost because we don't see it, we don't realize what we've lost.
Right. It was also very interesting to hear you speak of the flat tax, but also how the you made the comment that the current code is beyond redemption.
Yes, and the most people, candidates, always want to tinker with the thing. But it's beyond repair. You've just got to throw the whole thing out. I like to say you should bury it, but I'm not sure the EPA would allow you to do that. It's so toxic.
Right.
But I cited the example of the former head of the tax writing committee in Congress, in the House Ways and Means Committee, a fellow named David Camp, several years ago tried to come up with a reform bill to get some rationality in this thing, and it came to 997 pages. Well, if you need nearly 1,000 pages to simplify something, you have a problem.
Yeah, that doesn't help at all. It just compounds the problem.
It does, and just like in healthcare, they with this top-down approach they have in healthcare, compared to whack-a-mole, you keep whacking, and same thing on the tax side.
Right. The last point you discussed in your presentation, I love the way you led into it about your travel tip. Can you share your travel tip with our audience?
Yes. Well, monetary policy is not the most exciting topic in the world. It's not going naked in the jungle or anything like that. So as a reward to people for having to sit through this, I said a travel tip: if you're ever on an airplane in coach, middle seat, you're on the runway going nowhere, and you want a little bit of space between you and your seatmates, start talking to them about monetary policy. They don't throw you off the plane. They will give you a wide berth. You'll have all the room you want.
Well, in fact, I thought it was the most, from my perspective, the most interesting part of your presentation, because you discussed how the interest rates are very unstable, and how the Federal Reserve has influence over that, and the value of the dollar, how unstable that is. If
it's like a watch that can't tell time.
Yeah, or a brick of cheese for £1 should be a brick of cheese for £1 regardless. Exactly. The same with the tax rate and the value of the dollar. Talk about a bit about that.
Well, if what these so-called experts don't recognize is money makes it easier to buy and sell with each other. It's like a claim check. Claim checks are a ticket, has no intrinsic value. You buy a ticket to a concert or baseball game, or a claim check for your coat at a restaurant. That piece of paper has no intrinsic value, but it's a claim on a product or service, the coat or the game or whatever. The same is true of money. with the whole economy, the marketplace. You go with these pieces of paper or the ellipses on your computer or your coins. You can get something, go in, give this worthless piece of paper and get something of value in return. So it's a claim check. And if a claim check is unsteady in value, you get less risk-taking. You it hurts the economy. So again, if you didn't have 60 minutes an hour, if that changed each day, imagine how chaotic that would be.
Right.
Or every time you wanted to buy something, you had to figure out, is this the amount I really wanted? I wanted 1 gallon, but I ended up with a half a gallon or 2 gallons. That's self-evident, but these experts can't seem to understand that on money. Money works best when it has a fixed value. 12 inches in a foot, 60 minutes in an hour, 5,280 feet in a mile. Again, having a mile fixed in length doesn't restrict the amount of distance you wish to travel. It just means you can have a metric to measure it, and makes it easier to get things done. But if everything's in chaos, well, then we have what we have today, stagnation.
Mm-hmm. You're also a 2-time past presidential candidate for the Republican Party, rather for the U.S. presidency. You talked a bit about the, how should I say, interesting political climate that we're in right now, and you gave some thoughts on our current candidates, at least Secretary Clinton, Senator Bernie Sanders, and Donald Trump. You know, wonderful stories from a perspective that you've been through yourself. Talk a bit about this political climate and these next few months that we're going through, the race to the presidency, and your opinions on where we are and the players in the game.
Well, it's amazing that, and it reflects the turbulence of the times. You take Secretary Clinton. She is in effect a 3rd term. You would think, since most polls show people think the country's going by a wide margin in the wrong direction, she would be going nowhere, but there was no one to run against her.
Right.
The party had no bench. And Bernie Sanders, this obscure socialist from upper New England, comes along and nearly upends her. Mm-hmm. And so he, was of the far left of the party, went to his honeymoon in Moscow during the Cold War. I mean, what any romance there? It escapes me, but that's where he went. And he nearly upends her. And so on the Democrat side, I think what you're going to see is, not what I think you're going to see, what you could see is still, even though it's remote, say call it 1 in 10, this email scandal and the pay-to-play scandals, possible scandals with the Clinton Foundation could upend her. Mm-hmm. And the amazing thing is there's a clause in Democratic Party rules called the conscience rule, where if you feel in good conscience you can't support the candidate you're pledged to support, you can vote for another candidate. Right. It's permitted. And so if your candidate you're pledged to has got legal troubles, you can in good conscience vote for somebody else. So I said those votes won't go for, if a crisis came up, won't go for Bernie. Right. They'll go probably to Vice President Biden as the unifier, calming the waters and all that sort of thing. Yeah. On the Republican side, Donald Trump has got to recognize that you just can't toss off comments anymore because people are paying attention in a way that they never did before when you're running against 16. And you've got to define what your agenda is. You've got to define what you're bringing to the table. Yes, you did in the primaries, but that's a small number compared to the number of general election voters. And if you allow the other side to define you, you are going to be in deep trouble. Right. And so lead with your prescriptions. Mm-hmm. Don't feel you got to get involved in every issue that comes up. Have a communications team that you can brainstorm things before you go out and make a statement, and know how to get information out there without looking like you're doing it. I mean, the other side does it all the time.
The story has been, as you said in your presentation, has tended to be about him rather than about an issue or
about him as a personality,
right? Not
as
a candidate or on an issue
with a platform like Reagan was in 1980. The demeanor for the office, the things that determine these elections. And so it's not a reality show,
right?
Where people like to joke. He could
Right.
he was the only person who fired people who didn't work for him.
Right.
But it's a different environment, and he's got to adjust to it. And you see it in business. You achieve a certain success, doesn't guarantee it's going to take you to the next stage.
Right.
That doesn't mean you have to change yourself. That's not going to happen. But you've got to expand your game.
Be smart.
And he's got to recognize, he's got to appeal to people who may not like him,
Right.
who may not like his style, and give him the feeling, one, he's got the temperament for the office, he's got ideas that would help get this economy moving, making real change in Washington, got the temperament to do that. So people who are doubtful or unsure, they have to say, well, I'll take a chance on him.
Right.
We can't continue to do it. I'll take a chance. Let's try it and see what happens.
Right.
And then he can win. But if it's just about him, ain't going to happen.
Yeah, it's been quite interesting. My last question to you is something that, as an association and as an industry, the accounting profession, the financial consulting profession is, and most, I would say, are grappling with, and that is the generational gap. We've got baby boomers who are retiring and exiting their businesses, and you've got Gen Xers who are coming into that space in an economy that's struggling, as you talked about, globally, not just here in the U.S., but globally. And then the younger generations who are coming into a place where they see this turmoil and there might not be any hope or opportunity in the cost of education. And my question is specifically for the younger generations coming up. And what would be your advice to them to pioneer or to persevere, to not lose that hope that there is some opportunity as we revive America?
Yeah, one of the things about being young is you don't have the perspective that you get when you're older. You have more energy, which is good. You never have everything in the phases of life, but as a young person, what we're going through now, they have to realize is abnormal. It's not going to last. This country won't tolerate it. One way or the other, we'll find a way around it. So what do you do in the meantime? If you can't get a real job, take something at Starbucks as a barista, not just a job, but see it as, say, you're interested in business, as your on-the-job training, your MBA on the job. See it as, how does this place work? How do they work with people? What can they improve? What can I learn that I might bring if I want to start a business from observing here? So it's not just a job, see it as a learning experience. And then maybe when you're off duty, so to speak, online gives you enormous opportunity to learn about things. Because in healthcare, huge opportunities. We're not going to have this government-dominated system. It's going to open up, and healthcare is huge, and so you're going to have enormous opportunities figuring out delivery, new cures. And in terms of finance, if you can understand a balance sheet, you're ahead of most people. They don't understand in Washington. We have great liabilities, but if you're growing the asset side, liabilities like your personal balance sheet. You may have credit card debt, but if your income is going up and your assets are going up, it becomes a lot easier to deal with those things than if you're stagnant. So ask yourself, ideally, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? And how, in these circumstances, do you prepare for it? Instead of despairing, see it as a prep time. And try some things. May not work, but that's how you learn, and that's how you may come across something that you hadn't even considered. And wow, I never thought I'd be into that, but it may be an acquired taste, but you like it when you acquire it.
When you get to that, yes. Well, thank you again, Mr. Forbes. It's been an honor for me to meet you personally. Of course, your magazine and your family history is well known to me, and to have this opportunity not only to greet you for our members, but to have this conversation with you as well has been an honor, and we appreciate that. And
well, thank you, Brian, and thank you, and congratulations on the 25th for NACVA. That's quite an achievement in this turbulent world.
yes, it is. Hopefully we'll have more.
Yes.
And we'll hope maybe someday to have you back.
Look forward to it.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.